You don't want to play games. You don't want to be fake. If you're interested, you want to show it. You want to be emotionally available. You want to be physically available. You want to make time. You want to prioritize the connection. And you're afraid that if you do that too much, it's going to signal something about you that you're not high value enough, or you're not attractive enough, or you're not worthy enough. And so you're withholding, but withholding feels inauthentic. And it feels like this whole thing is a big manipulative game that you never got the handbook for. And you're saying, why can't I just be myself? Why can't I just love the way I want to? Why can't I just express interest the way I want to? Why do I have to follow rules? Why do I have to play games? Why can't I just be me and have somebody see that and appreciate that and love me for being that? Welcome to the Conscious Love Show. My name is Shane Kohler. I've spent over a decade helping women understand the unconscious patterns driving their relationships and what it actually takes to change them. I'm one of the most direct voices in the modern relationship space, and the person who will tell you the truth that most coaches are afraid to name. This show is for anyone who's done settling, done shrinking, and done wondering why love keeps falling short. I'm not here to make you feel better about patterns that aren't serving you. I'm here to name them, help you understand them, and learn how to change them. If you're ready for that, I'm glad you're here, and let's get into it. All right. Hello again, everyone. Hello and welcome back to the Conscious Love Show podcast. Shane Kohler on with you today. As always, pleasure to be here. Look forward to diving back in with you. And in today's episode, we're talking about why high-value men lose interest in women who are too available. And this, I think, speaks to one of the core frustrations that so many of the women I work with have, is that you don't want to play games. You don't want to be fake. If you're interested, you want to show it. You want to be emotionally available. You want to be physically available. You want to make time. You want to prioritize the connection. And you're afraid that if you do that too much, it's going to signal something about you that you're not high value enough, or you're not attractive enough, or you're not worthy enough. And so you're withholding, but withholding feels inauthentic. And it feels like this whole thing is a big manipulative game that you never got the handbook for. And you're saying, why can't I just be myself? Why can't I just love the way I want to? Why can't I just express interest the way I want to? Why do I have to follow rules? Why do I have to play games? Why can't I just be me and have somebody see that and appreciate that and love me for being that? And if that's you right now, I want to say I get it. And there's good news today, actually. I'm not even going to say there's good news and bad news. I'm just going to say there's good news. The good news is you can absolutely be you and have someone love you and receive you for who you are. In fact, that's exactly what I want to touch on in today's episode, is that the path is not to discover some super complex strategy for how to win somebody's attraction. The path is to really be true to yourself, wholly and completely, and let that truth be the filtering mechanism that draws in the right men and repels the wrong men. But when I say that, something we need to look at is what it actually means to be true to yourself. And this is where I think a lot of us get mixed up because, like I said earlier, well, I like him. I want to spend time with him. I'm attracted to him. Why can't I just show that fully? And you can show that, and you even can show that fully. But there's one caveat I want to give here, and it's the most important thing I'm going to touch on today. Because when I say be true to yourself, a lot of times we hear I should be true to my feelings, but your feelings are only part of what's true for you. And a lot of times when we're caught up in the intensity of our attraction and our desire to somebody, we are being true to those feelings, but we are being untrue to everything else that's true for us. So here's what I want to say. is showing attraction is not wrong. It's necessary, right? If you don't show your interest or your attraction in a man, he's going to assume that pursuing you is a complete failure on his, like he's going to assume that he's going to fail and he's not even going to try. It's that spark of interest that you let him see that gives him the confidence to say, hey, if I go after this, I might not fall flat on my face and it might actually work out for me, right? So like he needs to see that interest. He needs to see that attraction. Showing attraction is not wrong. Unbalanced attraction is the problem. It's when you show your attraction for him but you don't show him anything else. It's when you abandon every other part of your truth the moment you like somebody. In the dating rhetoric that's out there, there's a lot of strategies that people are giving that try to point in this direction, but most of them fail because they come off manipulative. And I think you know as well as I do, and I think this goes both ways for men and women, is like when we feel like we're being manipulated, whether it's a man or a woman, like we kind of recoil from that. There's something about it that just feels a little gross. And when it feels like someone is using a strategy or playing a game, it feels a little disgusting. And we don't want to be a part of that. We don't want anything to do with that. So a lot of the rhetoric that's out there, or a lot of the strategies that dating coaches are teaches you to play some kind of manipulative game, like play hard to get, tell him no 3 nights out of the week, and you're only available on the 4th night. I don't know if these are the rules. I'm just making it up. But my point is they give you these kinds of strategies that when you try to implement these strategies, they feel very inauthentic. And on the other end, it comes off as manipulative. And most people don't want to be manipulated. So when I say that men lose interest in women who are too available, let me reframe that sentence for a moment. You can be fully available, authentically available, but the reality is you're not just available to him. You're available to the other important relationships in your life. You're available to your commitments to yourself. You're available to your standards, to your boundaries, to your needs. You're available to your career. You're available to your friendships. Like being fully available is not just being available to him. It's being fully available to everything that matters to you personally, to everything that matters to the other relationships in your life. And he is a part of that. So when you give him your full availability authentically, what you're really doing is you're balancing the availability that you have for him with the availability you have for other areas of your life. You're not pretending that you're not attracted to him. You're not trying to be dismissive of him or act like you're too good, like you don't need it. Like you're not trying to be like that. But you're also not being unbalanced in your attraction. You're saying, hey, this relationship is something I'm interested in. It's something that I see being valuable in my life, being worth investing in. And it is one of many things. I can make space for you, but I also need space for my career. I also need space for my friendships. I also need space for time with myself. I also have certain standards and certain boundaries and certain things that I need to honor and I need to protect. And I'm not going to allow this connection to threaten that. And in what I'm talking about here, none of this requires you to be inauthentic. None of it requires you to be fake. None of it requires you to be strategic. None of it requires you to do anything weird or shady or manipulative or to play any kind of games. It's simply being true to yourself just as much as you're being true to the relationship with him. And when I say men lose interest in women who are too available, what I'm really getting at here is that men lose interest in women who become overly available to them while making themselves unavailable to the other things that matter in her life. This is what signals high value to somebody. The high value signal is the signal that says, I like you, but I'm not consumed by you. I want to get to know you, but not at the expense of the other things that matter to me. And if you want a place in my life, I will make that place for you, but you also need to show up in that place. So when I say be true to yourself, and I want to come back to that, because a lot of times when I say be true to yourself and you say, okay, I'm going to be true to myself. I like him, so I'm going to text him. I'm going to call him. I'm going to try to see him because that's me being true to myself. Well, fair. And that is true. But let's talk about the other parts of your truth that you might be suppressing. There's a truth that you don't want to lead the entire relationship. Right? Like pretty much every woman I've ever spoken to says she doesn't want to lead the entire relationship. She doesn't want to plan every date. She doesn't want to make every phone call. She doesn't want to initiate every text. She wants to feel pursued. She wants to feel like he will pick up the phone and call her, like he will plan something without her needing to micromanage every event. And if you check in with yourself, I'm pretty sure, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that that's your truth too. You don't want to lead the entire relationship. You don't want to have to carry the whole thing on your back. Sometimes there's a truth that you have needs that aren't being met by this relationship. Or you have ways that you want him to show up for you that he's not showing up. And this is really interesting. It's a funny paradox that I've noticed is a lot of times we're so afraid of being needy that we withhold our needs. And being needy is actually the opposite of expressing an authentic need. I found this to be a really fascinating paradox. But it's like when I express an authentic need, like for example, I would like you to text me good morning and good night every day. I would like us to talk on the phone once a day. I would like to be able to see you at least once or twice a week. Like they're just fundamental needs that I have when I'm opening myself emotionally to someone and making myself available in someone's life. There are fundamental emotional needs that I have that make me feel safe in this connection, that make me feel like this connection is worth my emotional investment. And our fear of being needy causes us to withhold these authentic needs. And the paradox is that withholding those needs makes me look more needy. And I know that might be confusing, so let me try to clarify this. A man knows, he can feel it in his bones. A man knows when you need something from him that he's not giving you. And sometimes he will sit back and see how long you're willing to tolerate that. And I know that sounds really fucked up when I say it that way, but it's not as fucked up as it might sound. And here's why. And I know this is a delicate thing I'm talking about, right? But he's not trying to take advantage of you. He's not trying to manipulate you. He's trying to see at what point you will stand your ground, because he's trying to figure out what kind of a woman you are. This isn't toxic because we all do this. And I coach women to do the same thing with men. Like you want to give him little opportunities to show you what kind of a man he is. And he's going to do the same thing with you. He's going to give you opportunities to show him what kind of a woman you are. And I don't think this is toxic. I actually think this is healthy because we need these opportunities to set the standard in the relationship and to see if the other person will rise to these standards. And so let's say, for example, that he knows that you want more regular connection from him. He can feel that you want to hear from him more often. You want him to call you. You want him to text you. And he's not stepping into it right away. Now, why is he not stepping into it? because he wants to see at what point you will own that need for yourself. Why? Because that shows him what kind of woman you are. Are you the kind of woman who's going to say, hey, I need certain things from this relationship, and if you can't meet me there, this isn't the relationship for me? That's a high value woman. That signals that's a woman who's confident. She knows she's worthy of getting what she wants in a relationship. She knows that she's not just going to wait around and over accommodate to someone who's unwilling to meet her there. Like, that signals so much. That willingness to express a need signals so much. And ladies, I want you to hear me when I say this. Men want to see this from you. They want to see that you are that kind of woman. A lot of times women think he doesn't care. No, it's not that he doesn't care. It's that he wants to know that you're the kind of woman who will be honest with him. And why does he care about that? Why does he want to know that you're that kind of woman? Because that means you're the kind of woman he can trust. If what you're hearing today is resonating, there's a reason for that. These patterns aren't random. They run deep, they live in our nervous system, and most of us have one primary pattern that's been quietly running our relationships our entire lives. That pattern is your relational blueprint. I put together a quick 3-minute quiz that will help you identify your unique blueprint, and when you get your result, it's going to name something about you you've probably felt your entire life but just never had the language for. The quiz will help you name it, understand it, and know exactly where to go from here. You can get started at inspiredloveapproach.com/blueprint or check the link in the show notes. Thanks for listening today, and let's get back to the show. A lot of women are afraid to speak up because they think it's going to push him away, and it does push some men away. But this is the thing, and I might circle back to this a little later. The thing is that a lot of women are overcorrecting to appeal to the lowest common denominator of men. Women are so used to avoidant men. They're so used to men who take and take and take without giving in return. And a lot of women are thinking that I have to lower myself to that kind of man if a man is ever going to choose me. But all it does is signal low value to the men you meet. And what you're doing is you're appealing to the lowest common denominator of men, and you're hiding yourself from the man who actually wants to meet you. Men want to experience your standards. I'm going to circle back to that in a moment. But I want to continue talking about the truth you're suppressing. So I touched on you don't want to lead the entire relationship. You have needs that aren't being met. Maybe there are things that you're actually a no to that you're being a yes to because you want to make him happy. That's unbalanced availability. Maybe there's a commitment that you want, but you haven't voiced. Like maybe you're in this relationship and you're saying, I want to be married one day. I want to have a family. I want his full devotion. I don't want something casual. I want clarity about where this is going. I want clarity about what his intentions are with me. I want to know exactly where I stand. I want to feel safe, but you're not telling him that. Maybe you're withholding your dream of the future. Maybe you're not moving forward on plans with your friends or in your career and other areas of your life because you're waiting to hear when he's going to be available this weekend because you don't want him to call on Friday night and say, hey, can we see each other? And you say, no, sorry, I made plans. I'm not available. So you're putting your life on hold, waiting for him to show up. And all of these things that I'm touching on here, these are truths that you are suppressing, and it creates a frequency that he feels in his bones, and it kills attraction. So when I say you can step out of the whole game playing dynamic, you can step out of the whole manipulative back and forth, hard to get. You can step out of all of it simply by being true to yourself. But you've got to be true to more than your interest in him. You've got to be true to everything that's true for you, and your interest in him is only a part of it. And what I want to say, ladies, is that men need this from you. This creates the friction that makes you attractive. And like the hard to get advice out there, the, play hard to get, this is what it's aiming at. But it misses the point because it teaches you to play a game that's not authentic. And what I'm pointing at is there's no game here. This is just simply being true. A man loses interest in a woman when there's nothing calling him forward. You see, it's not your interest in him that pushes him away. He actually wants that. He needs that. He needs to feel that you're interested in him. He needs to know that when he invests his time and his energy and his attention in you, that it's not a dead end, that he's not like being hit with a poker face every time. Like, he needs to feel your appreciation. He needs to feel your attraction, but he also needs to feel that something is calling him forward in the relationship. So there's a difference between being available and being present. Availability says, I'll arrange myself around you. Presence says, I'm fully occupied in the reality of my life. And the masculine commits to what he's working towards, not what he already has. Like, there's nothing more boring to a man than when he completely has a woman. I know that sounds pretty bad when I say it, but I think there's some truth to it. I've been with my wife for 10 years now, and I'm always working towards something with her. And this isn't a manipulative strategy that she's been masterminding for the last 10 years. This is a woman who's fully embodied in her truth. This is a woman who, she's complicated and she's lovable and she's everything in between. And being in relationship with her, fully connected to her truth like she is, I'm always working towards something. And like, I really want to explain this. Like, it's not a game. It's not a manipulation. It's not a strategy. It's just the truth. But I am building a life for us. I am building a dream for us. I'm holding the container of her dreams and working every day to bring it into being. And I'm being rewarded for that every step of the way. But every part of our relationship has called me into something greater. And I think this is the thing that kills attraction for a man, is when he's with a woman and she's already made herself fully available to him, and she's just hoping that he's going to pick her. He's going to choose her. That's the kind of woman that if she's pleasant and she's likable and she's fun to be around, he'll hang out with her for a while. Because why not? It's easy, it's fun, it feels good. But if nothing is calling him forward, if nothing is forcing his growth, if nothing is catalyzing or challenging him, he's going to get bored with the relationship. You see, he doesn't want the woman he can have. He wants the woman worth having. And this is what I want to say is like, this is every woman. I'm not saying there are some special women who are better than others and they're the ones worth having and other women are not. No, I'm saying every woman, when she's embodied in her truth, when she's honoring the wholeness of who she is, when she's not diminishing herself in any way for masculine approval, she's the greatest mystery a man will ever try to solve. She's the greatest challenge that a man will ever face, the greatest mountain that he will ever climb. Because the very reality of being in relationship with her is always calling him into more, and not even more for her, but more for herself. Like I mentioned my relationship with my wife earlier and how 10 years in, I'm always being challenged into something new. Like our relationship is the environment that catalyzes my growth every single day. Right now, I'm growing as a father. Right now, I'm learning not only to hold my wife, but to hold my daughter too. But that wouldn't even be possible without my wife. A couple years ago, we bought a house. I'm learning how to hold a home. Like all of everything that we've built together is catalyzing something inside of me. My partnership is the environment. It's the greatest mountain I've ever climbed. It's the greatest challenge I've ever faced. And that is the very essence of masculinity. It thrives on challenge. You know, a million years ago when we were hunter-gatherers, the man would get up every day and he would head out into the forest to hunt an animal, and that would be the dinner that would feed the tribe. His entire framework is based on that challenge of the hunt, of the mission, of something that pushes him to his absolute limits so he comes home more than when he left. That's the entire masculine frame. And a relationship that will keep a man stimulated a decade later, multiple decades later, that's a relationship that never lets him get complacent. And the reality is that all of you ladies, you have truths that don't bend when they're fully honored. You have plans that don't pause. You have standards that you enforce because you actually believe you deserve them. And being available for a man who hasn't earned that availability, that's not love. It's you auditioning for a part. It's anxiety dressed up as affection. It's you hoping that if you can play into the perfect role of what you think he wants you to be, that he'll choose you. And the tragic irony is that playing into that role or trying to play into that role is the very reason he won't choose you. Because he doesn't want you to be the perfect thing that lives up to all of his expectations. He wants you to be the thing that breaks his expectations. He wants you to be the thing that makes him redefine his expectations. He wants you to be the thing that shatters his illusions so they have to be rebuilt in a new way. And I'm going to tell you I'm telling you this right now, and I'm telling you something that most men won't tell you because most men don't know that they want this. And this is the thing. Most men don't actually know that they want this. Because he thinks he wants you to be that happy, pleasant little girl who does everything he wants, who says all the right things, who endlessly validates his ego, who makes herself available for everything he ever wanted. And then he wonders why love feels boring. You see, he doesn't know that he wants this. But what he's craving on an unconscious level, what the masculine essence inside of him is craving, not what his little ego wants, not those little hits of validation he wants, but what he's craving on a soul level, like he wants to feel the weight of a woman who doesn't need his interests to complete her. He wants to feel the pull of a woman who would be fine without him. He wants to experience a woman who is self-possessed. Self-possession is the most attractive thing a woman can bring into a room. I did an episode a few weeks back talking about why men commit to some women and not others. This is essentially what I was touching on. He might date 100 women who just try to get him to like her and feel bored with every one. And then he meets a woman who doesn't need him to like her. And all of a sudden he goes, holy cow, there's something about her, something magnetic. And the reality is she might not even be as physically attractive in a standard sense as some of those other women were. He might not even be the thing that, she might not be the thing that he thought he was looking for. But he meets her and there's an energy, and something about her energy changes him. And that's what every man wants to feel. But here's the truth. And this is where it gets confusing for women. And I want to honor this confusion, is because not all men are ready for that level of commitment. Not all men are ready to be called into that. And this is what I said earlier. I want to come back to this point. I said most women are catering themselves to the lowest common denominator of men and hiding themselves from the men who actually want to see them. And this is the cultural conditioning that women go through in a patriarchal society. From a young age, you've been taught to be pretty and pleasant and amiable and soft and accepting and gentle and all of these feminine qualities that aren't bad, but they're only one half of the spectrum. And look, I'm not telling you to be soft and pleasant and like those, he needs to feel that from you. You know, if you're always harsh and critical, like there's no room for him to exist in that, right? But it's when you shut down parts of yourself and only express the parts that you think he wants to see. That's when it becomes a problem. And the reality underneath this is that most women are afraid that their whole truth is too much. If I really brought all of myself to the relationship, it would be too much. It would scare him away. If I brought my needs, if I brought my standards, if I brought my commitments, if I asked him to step up for me in the ways that I really need a man to step up for me, if I required that of him, if I were unrelenting about the things that are most true for me in my heart, if I didn't try to play the game to get him to like me, it would be too much and it would be repelling to men. And it would be repelling to some men. It would be repelling to the lowest common denominator. Other men would feel something sparked in them that they've never been motivated to pursue anything that much in their entire lives. And this is where I know it's so difficult, and I want to be compassionate to this because I talk to women every day, every day of my life, and I work with hundreds of you every year. And I know what happens when you start doing this is you you start taking steps down this road, and some of the men you meet can't meet you there, and they drift away. When this happens, this is what our brains are designed to do, is we have a certain belief system. And this belief, as I talked about, this is the conditioning that women receive growing up in a patriarchal society, right? That you need to be soft and pleasant and amiable and pleasing and pretty and all of the things, all of those soft feminine qualities. And when you step outside of that, when you bring your strength, when you bring your standards, when you bring your boundaries, when you challenge a man to rise for you, when there are certain things that you just won't compromise on, when you show up that way, almost inevitably, you're going to push some men away. And this is what I was saying, is what our brains are designed to do is you have a certain belief system based on that conditioning, based on that expectation of what you've been told men want and what men have told you they want. And like I said, most men don't even know what they really want. And so you have this belief system. And what our brains try to do is prove our beliefs right. This is what all human beings are doing. This is what all human beings are doing. We're all out there trying to prove our beliefs are right. And so you have a belief based on a lifetime of conditioning that says, if I bring all of myself, it's going to be too much. And I'm going to push men away. I'm going to intimidate them. I'm going to threaten them. I'm going to push them away. So I can't be too honest about what I really want. I've got to pretend like I'm okay with something light and easy and casual, and then hopefully I can sneak in commitment later on. You know, maybe I don't really feel like having sex with him because we don't know each other that well, but, you know, if I say no, then he's going to think I'm a prude and he's going to lose interest. So I should probably just do it so he knows that I'm not like that. And you make these little compromises with yourself that undermine your own self-respect, and then he picks up on that and starts to perceive you as a woman who doesn't respect herself. And when you say, no, you know what? I don't want to sleep with you right now. I really would like us to take the time to get to know each other. You know, I feel most comfortable having sex with someone when I know there's some exclusivity and some intention about where this is going and what the future holds. So, you know, I would like us to date and get to know each other. And when I feel like this connection is in a solid place, then I'm going to be open to taking that step with you. And I think it'll be really rewarding when it happens. Something like that. See, you believe that if you hold your boundaries that clearly and that strongly, that it's going to push men away. And inevitably it does. And so then it happens, and then what your brain does is you go, see, I knew I was right. I knew I can't hold my standards that cleanly, because if I do, I'm going to push everybody away and I'm going to end up alone. And this might be the most important thing I say in today's episode. Is what I'm touching on right now has nothing to do with men. It has nothing to do with you being too much. This is all about your relationship with yourself. Men are simply the environment in which you get to see that relationship play out in the most visceral way that you could possibly imagine. Because what every relationship is asking of you. From the most toxic man you could possibly end up with to the most healthy, secure man who would love and nurture you for the rest of your life, and everything in between. What every relationship is testing in you is how much will you be true to yourself? Are you going to prioritize the connection with him over the connection with yourself? And you might say, well, if I constantly just prioritize the connection with myself, I'm just going to end up with myself and be completely alone. And this is where I'll push back on that. Because if you constantly compromise the relationship with yourself to please the relationship with men in your life, and no man ever truly respects you, they like you like a girlfriend, they like you like a cool girl to hang out with, they like you for sex, they like you for companionship, they like you for fun, but they never respect you on that deep level that earns their complete heart level devotion, then aren't you just going to end up with yourself anyway? I mean, the best case scenario in that framework is that you end up as like the pretty thing hanging off of a man's arm. You're not really a person, you're just a trophy. He doesn't respect you or deeply appreciate you or honor your existence. You're just the pretty little thing that stands next to him and validates his ego and makes him feel good about himself. And he uses you for sex, and he uses you for approval, and he uses you to show you off and show you around, and you make him feel good, you make him feel less lonely, you make him feel important. But you're not a person. You're just a tool for his ego. You see, in that framework, that is the best case scenario. And actually, I mean, we could argue that being alone would be better than that. So I say that's the best case scenario, but maybe it's not. But my point here is that's a losing battle no matter which way you cut it. Like, that approach assumes that getting someone to pick you is the ultimate reward. And it's not. How many women have I coached over the years that have been married to someone like that for 20 years and they exit that completely broken? Because they spent their whole lives pouring themselves into a man, hoping that if they gave enough of themselves, he would one day appreciate them enough to do the same for her. And inevitably, what she finds is that it never works. Because the very foundation of the relationship was set up to never do that. So every single relationship that you have with a man is asking one thing of you. How truly are you going to honor yourself? How completely rooted in yourself are you going to be? Are you going to prioritize the connection with him over the connection with yourself? And every interaction is asking that question of you. Now, this doesn't mean that you be cold and distant. And I find sometimes women struggle with balancing the two. right? It's like, well, if I'm not going to be completely amiable to him, then I'm just going to be cold and harsh. And it doesn't have to be one or the other. And I find that sometimes we get stuck in that. But just to give a quick example, let's say that you're dating a man and maybe you're wanting to see him this weekend, but he hasn't gotten back to you about what the plan is, and your friends or something in your life is calling on you, and you're saying, well, let me get back to you about that. I'm not really sure. I'm waiting to see if something else works out. And you're putting your life on hold, waiting for him to get back to you. Because you don't want to be pushy. You don't want to be demanding. You don't want to be too much. But you also want to be available. This is a big mistake. Because you're teaching him that you're just going to wait around for him. There's a fundamental relationship in that where you're saying that my life is less important than yours, and I'm going to put my life on hold until you find space in yours for me. That's a fundamental misalignment. So let's say you recognize that and you say, you know what? I'm not going to put my life on hold. I'm not going to wait for him. If he's not going to make me a priority, then he can get around to me on his terms, and we'll see where things fall. And you make plans with your friends, or you make plans to do that thing, whatever it is. And then let's say he calls you on Thursday and he's like, hey, do you want to get together this weekend? And you might say, hey, it's really great to hear from you. I would love to get together this weekend. Unfortunately, I did make some plans with friends. We're going here, we're doing this, whatever it is. But I would really like to see you and catch up. I'm available Tuesday night, or I'm available next weekend. And in the future, if you want to see me, it'd be best to make plans a little earlier. If you give me 4 or 5 days in advance, I can make sure I'll be available for that. You did a few things there. You made it clear that you are happy to hear from him. You made it clear that you're looking forward to seeing him. You made yourself emotionally available, even if you're not physically available for that weekend. You gave him some direction. You said, if you want to plan things earlier in advance, give me 4 or 5 days notice. I can make sure I'm available. So you gave him a clear direction for how he can secure your time. And you also gave him some options. Now he can rearrange his schedule to make himself available for you. And implicit underneath this, you don't have to say this. Like so much of this communication is not about what you say. It's about how you frame the context that shows him everything he needs to know. Implicit in everything you said there was a simple foundational standard that you get to rise to the occasion for me. And if you're not willing to rise to the occasion, I'm okay with losing you. Because I'm only interested in men who actually want to rise to the occasion. And any man who blows you off because you didn't sit around waiting for him all week is doing you a favor. Like you dodged a bullet with that one. But most men are not going to respond that way. Most men, and I would love feedback. If you want to shoot me an email, like I would love feedback on those of you who try this and how it responds. I would say 90% of the time, he will make himself available for one of the days you offer him. And if he's genuinely not available, he'll say, look, I really can't do those days. Do you have another day? Or what if we do the following week? 90% of the time when you set a standard like this, a man will meet you on your terms. And when he shows up, he's not going to show up entitled like you owe it to him. He's going to show up like he's grateful that a high-value woman made some time for him in her life. And here's the thing. I know we throw around the terms high value man, high value woman. The reality is I think most people are high value. I really do. Like if you really get to know the person underneath it all, almost everybody has incredible value. There are some people who don't, but most people do. The thing is, most of us don't carry ourselves like we have high value. And so when people meet us, they assume we don't. The biggest challenge in this for the ladies is that you've got to get comfortable letting men fall away. You've got to get rooted in the truth that a man who cannot meet you in the ways that I'm describing in this episode cannot meet you in any meaningful way at all. This is when you step from wanting to be chosen to being the chooser. It's like, I'm only going to choose the man who can meet me in the ways that I'm describing here. I'm only going to choose that man. So I'm not trying to be chosen anymore. I'm not trying to get a man to like me. I'm standing in, I'm already likable. I'm already lovable. I'm already that woman. Because the reality is you already are that woman. The question is, are you going to start carrying yourself like you are, or are you going to keep carrying yourself like you're someone else? The you who is listening to this episode right now, I want you to hear me. You already are everything a man is looking for. You don't need to fix yourself. You don't need to change yourself. You're not broken. You're not incomplete. It's already there. Everything he wants is already there. So the question is not if you're good enough for a man. The question is, are you going to start seeing that in yourself? Are you going to start honoring that in yourself? Because when you do, it sets a frequency in a relationship that he's going to feel. And the reality is, some men, maybe a good amount of men, are going to be intimidated by that. When a woman is really rooted in herself, it's a little intimidating. I was a little intimidated by my wife when I met her. But I also said to myself, if I could marry a woman like this, I'm set. And I had to have a conversation with myself, like, do I want to go all in with a woman that's a real challenge? Or do I want to keep chasing these relationships that feel boring to me? At that time, I could have said, you know what? You're a lot of work. You're high maintenance. You're asking a lot of me. You know, there was a girl I was dating a couple months ago. She made it a lot easier, right? Like, I could have said that. And I had to have that internal conversation with myself. 10 years later, best decision I ever made. Because of her, I have the home I have the career I have the family I have the daughter I have. Like, she has been the magic that lit up my world. And I believe that's what women do for men. They light up their world. but only the woman who knows that she carries that magic inside of her. Only the woman who knows that when a man commits to her, she will be the best thing that ever happened to him, and she carries herself as that. And then she's patient. And she waits for the man who recognizes that in her as well. See, I truly think this is when conscious love happens. It's when you really get clear on the value that you have, and you see it inside of yourself, and you hold it as something of value. You hold it as a standard that is worth somebody rising for. And when you see that fully in yourself and you hold that as a standard, and then you wait for someone else who sees it, that's when it happens. But if someone sees it in you, but you don't see it in yourself, that never works. We sabotage those relationships every time. If you don't see it in yourself and the other person doesn't, that definitely doesn't work. You see, it's only when you see it in yourself and then somebody else sees it in you. That's when it works. And that's a rare match. But it's not an impossible match. And I think we confuse rare with impossible. I think I talked about this a few weeks ago, but it's like if you've been on 10 dates and none of them worked out, you start to say, it's never going to happen. But sometimes it happens on number 11. But if you give up on number 7, you never make it to number 11. A big part of this journey is the resilience we build along the way. When somebody can't meet you, you start to get comfortable releasing them. You start to get comfortable letting them go. And you're constantly reaffirming to yourself, I know there is somebody who wants what I want. I know there is somebody who wants to build my dream with me. Like this desire, this dream could not live in my heart if it was impossible for it to be realized. I know there's somebody who wants that. I know there's somebody who's ready for that. I know there's somebody who's available for that. I know there's somebody who wants to honor me and treat me the way I want to be treated. And I want to do the same for them. And when somebody falls out of your life, you start to reframe it from a tragedy to a success. You start to say to yourself, hey, I had some clear boundaries. I had some clear requests. I had some clear needs. And he wasn't able to meet me in those. And so he fell out of my life. And you know what? That's a good thing. And as you start to practice this, something starts to happen, and it's kind of magical the way it happens. But I experienced this for myself. My wife experienced this. A lot of the women I coach and people I work with, like it's a pretty universal experience that when we practice this in a very magical way, we start to feel like we're getting closer. That person falls out of our life and we feel that little pang of disappointment. But then underneath that, there's something deeper. And it's like, you know what? I feel like I'm closer than ever. So as I said earlier, this whole game, this whole playing field is really just a space where you get to have your relationship with yourself reflected back to you in the most visceral way possible. And every interaction is an opportunity to increase and reinforce the strength of that relationship with yourself. And the very practice of doing that is what calls in the right partner. As you grow into truly seeing and honoring your own value, you become available for someone else who can see it and honor it. You see, men lose interest in the women who are too available, not because their availability is a problem. It's because too much availability signals a certain relationship that she has with herself. So I want to thank you for being with me in today's conversation. It's a powerful one. And these are the core principles that they truly work. They truly work. It's easy to say, it's a little more complex to do, because this requires really working with the patterns that are deeply wired into your nervous system. And on that note, I want to add one more thing before I close. I didn't touch on this a lot today, but these patterns that are wired in your nervous system from a very young age, we develop a certain patterning, and I call this your relational blueprint. And I've developed a system where you can identify your relational blueprint and exactly how that blueprint plays out in relationships, because this is the way that your nervous system has learned to relate with men in order to feel safe, in order to feel like you have a sense of control, in order to get the validation that you need. And this has become a certain pattern that began when you were very young, and it has taken shape throughout your life. And what I'd like you to do today before you go, or maybe when you go, is to take the quiz I've put together that will help you identify your relational blueprint. Once you identify what your blueprint is by doing the quiz, then I will send you a personalized video where I break down that blueprint for you in detail. And if you want to take it a step further to really learn the process of healing this blueprint, you can book an audit with my team where we can sit down one-on-one and we can go over this blueprint with you to help you really understand it and help you know exactly what you need to do with it. So I'm going to leave the link to that quiz in the show notes. You can also go to inspiredloveapproach.com/blueprint, and you can take the quiz there. And I think you'll get a lot out of it when you do. So thank you for being with me today, everybody. Lots of love, lots of blessings. Go take the quiz, and I'll see you back here next week. Take care. Bye. Thanks again for checking out the show. Please subscribe on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on the most. And I would love it so much if you leave a review and tell people what you think of us. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram @TheLivingRelationship to connect more closely. And I'm grateful to be supporting you on your journey to love.